Good evening. Welcome to the Cape Charles Town Council public hearing and regular meeting, December the 15th, 2022. Can I get a roll call?
Buckholz present.
Holloway present.
Bennett present.
O'Brien present.
Grossman present.
Palmer present.
Let it be known we've established our quorum. Can I get everybody to rise for a moment of silence and the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, up first, the public hearing portion of the meeting. Item A, fiscal year 2023 proposed budget amendment. And item B, historic district design guidelines. Mr. Hosey or Libby?
This is public hearing, so.
Okay, Bill Bridgeforth.
Bill Bridgeforth? Bill?
You signed up to speak for public hearing?
Yes, just
Okay.
for the amendment or...
Sure, just come up
Now?
to the podium,
Yep.
please.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Bill Bridgeforth, 339 Randolph, and I'm just here to support the Planning Commission's recommendation that we leave all residential properties zoned R1 on Randolph, leave that R1. What you do with the rest is fine. And there are some on Randolph that are zoned commercial, not a problem. We just don't want any more zoned commercial. And I know that as a resident, you can apply to have your property zoned commercial, but this has to go through a process. Example, the property across the street, 340 Randolph, he wants it commercial. Well, if it's in the old proposal, if it's zoned commercial, it's easier for him to get it commercial. Where if it's left residential, he has to go through the process. We can vote it down or propose to you to vote it down. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed up for the public hearing.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Either item? Okay, I'll make a motion that we close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Up next, we've got our recognition of visitors and presentations. Item A, proposed workforce housing presentation.
You have the regular, excuse me, never mind. I'm ahead, never mind. Go ahead. I was thinking we had public comments, but no, that's after.
Can I get a motion to close?
Sorry.
Go ahead, adjourn. Item A, proposed workforce housing presentation, Bay Crossing by Lance Marine. Mr. Marine?
So I actually had to look this up, but January 27th, I sent a text to Smitty, then mayor at the time, and told him we had interest in doing workforce housing in the town, and was there a need? That turned into a meeting with John Hosey, and so for the greater part of this past year, we have been working toward a plan, which I'm presenting to you today, on what we believe to be a solution to a need not only in Cape Charles, but in a lot of parts of the county and the country. So if we flip through, I'll walk through and give you an idea of where our current vision is. And I've been living and breathing this for a year, so feel free to interject and stop and ask me questions, because I know too much, and I will likely glaze over some probably important things that people here might have to say or ask. It's 11 and a half acres, as I think everybody knows, that wraps the 4 1-acre lots. We're under contract, and the idea is to activate the Cassup Parkway frontage, and that to be the only and main gateway to the project. The plan, as you see it, has 2 2.13 acres programmed for 63 units on one side, and then EV charging as a secondary use to one, solve the need, but also satisfy the PUD requirements. The goal right now is to have a dedicated main street that comes through the project. All of the vehicular access will come off of that main street. You'll see later, I'll show you where the easements are programmed for utilities from an efficiency standpoint. But that will be the gateway to the project. On the back side of the project, there's a little sliver of land, and the proposal that we have is to continue and maintain a 100-foot buffer. I do not have any plans for a road to go there, but VDOT does, and so at some point there will be, whether or not we can restrict it to just be fire and egress, we'll find out, but there will be a road, but that will always maintain a secondary point of access. All of the parcels as they get programmed will be able to have some interparcel connectivity, so everything's efficient and everything's well laid out so that vehicular and pedestrian are not combined or conflicting. And to do that, we'll do, no, don't jump. The program right now is pedestrian is paramount, so I want to do raised crosswalks throughout. We'll also have walking paths, et cetera, and manicured gardens, and so everything will maintain a very true outdoor feel. I will tell you that my primary focus, primary focus is solving the workforce. My secondary focus, and just as important, is maintaining a nature preserve element to this, to where this looks and feels like what I believe I've always envisioned and felt that Cape Charles brings. Thank you. Diving in with a little bit more detail, this building that we have programmed today has interior access points, so there'll be an elevator and interior hallways, 63 units, of which the primary focus is going to be to establish kind of, I think, a younger community that is obviously starting the professional careers. That's 62% studios, 27% one bedrooms, and 11% two bedrooms. What we're doing is we're placing an emphasis on outdoor space, and by doing so, we're putting a lot of energy and effort in the outdoor space and keeping the units efficient, and what really is where the world of multifamily is going with smaller units. So we have 360 square foot studios up to 700 square foot two bedrooms. We right now have it programmed for 1.25 parking spaces per bedroom. I'll note that that is a more than what any of the zoning in the town requires. And so I do think that you got to be functional and that people need to have access. We're at 2.13 acres, of which 12% is amenity space, also way beyond any of the R3 or current zoning. And we're developing this or programming this at a 37% FAR, which is roughly a third, and that's far below any regular density for any type of multifamily. So we're taking what the existing zoning is for R3, and we're basically saying, okay, we need one or two changes. One of the biggest ones is no multifamily project in the town, in the county, and more likely than that, in a lot of parts of the country, could be developed with 1,000 square foot minimum unit size. And so that's probably the biggest reason why I'm sitting here asking for something. We have Jeff Klingel helping us with the landscape plan. It's huge vision and emphasis on outdoor spaces, and not only outdoor spaces that you can enjoy, but outdoor spaces that will breed and promote congregation and sense of place. And sense of place in a lot of worlds of commercial real estate is kind of a abused term, but I think in what we're trying and talking about doing here, sense of place is going to be everything. As you see, we've programmed community fire pits with outdoor barbecue grills and picnic tables. I love nothing more than sitting in front of a fire and having something on a grill. So that's my emphasis there. Where it says fitness amenities, that's actually wrong. That's an outdoor dog park, and that's at the gateway to the project, and that's purposeful because we want to promote that. And then we're going to do a lot around walking paths and landscape buffers. This is just a high-level plan to give you an idea to support the visual narrative of what we've been saying is a focus on the outdoor side. Elevations, I'm going to show you 2 elevations. We'll skip through the next one, but the idea behind this is this has to be a sustainable product, and this has to be a product that's going to last in a coastal climate. And so all of the materials that you're seeing, we're developing it with a vision for something that's quite attractive, but also fairly neutral. You'll see wood, you'll see metal, you'll see fiber cement in various textures and sizes and colors that are programmed around it to give it a visual appeal. This, in my eyes, is something that could be viewed as a luxury product, or it could be viewed as workforce product. And I think the vision I have is it just needs to be a high-quality residential delivery. There's another one that I think that this one emphasizes a little bit more simplicity. So it is a triangle building. So I think that you'll see that we can play with textures and materials to make something very subtle and understated. These are 2 hypothetical unit plans just to give you a visual of how we're translating what might seem like smaller square footage relative to the current code, but show you how, when done correctly and when done smartly, you can create a very viable, vibrant environment inside of a space. One of the things we're doing is combining the smaller unit size with higher ceiling heights to give you that sense of feel. So there is all components of any residential project, which is kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, et cetera, and living room, and all of that is fixed and planned out and programmed here with closet space. We do have a goal of doing some built-in dining components just to create and promote that efficiency, whether it's seating, dining tables, kitchenettes, that type of thing. So we're going to be this is going to be a part of the project we're going to dive and spend a lot of time on as we progress, but I wanted to give you a visual of what it could be. This is a civil plan. This shows how we have water coming from Cassatt Parkway to the east. We have electric and sewer coming from Old Cape Charles Road to the south, and that's part of how we've programmed our main street, and all of the utilities will be through that in easement form. The main street will be a 2-way street with a median, so I mean, if you can envision it, street lights, benches, et cetera, crosswalks, so that main street that you have coming through the project will be something that we can build on and grow in the future, but at the very least, it'll be something that's going to be incredibly inviting and attractive and pedestrian friendly. That's your visual. Please.
What consideration in your design have you given to quirks of the environment here, like hurricanes, nor'easters, things like that?
Couple things. One, the platform or the footprint of the building itself and how high we keep it for flooding. 2, material. Material is a paramount element. 3 would be windows and all of the grades. I mean, we're going to be building at the highest grade that we can, and all of it with coastal compliance.
Can I interject for a second? I'd like to remind everybody that this is a council meeting, it's not a town hall meeting, so I'd ask the public to refrain their questions. The questions is for council to ask, so I would appreciate it. Anybody from council?
Oh, just one point I would make. First of all, I really want to publicly thank Lance for his interest and effort in trying to put this together. I think he's done a fabulous job. This is an incredible need of the town and the county. And he has worked in very good faith with us We've had some interesting discussions, but we've always come out the other end with a positive attitude. So I appreciate that, Lance. Thank you for your time and effort. Also, I just wanted to make note, as you know, the Kip Topeka Inn is another workforce housing option right now, and the smallest of the studios that Lance is proposing now is larger than what's at Kip Topeka now. So it's not in direct competition. It's going to add to the overall need for the county.
I will speak to this, and I'm not going to speak to the Kip Topeka Inn, but, this is not a transient project. And that's why there's so much emphasis placed on community and outdoor space. And this is supposed to be something that's going to be a community where people want to come, people want to live, people want to grow. That's why we look at this first phase of what could be only one phase. And we look at it and we say that there's a lot of studios and a lot of ones. And the idea behind it is we're promoting teachers, we're promoting medical, et cetera, and, all fashions of the workforce in a sense that they're going to come in early into this, right? They're going to come into smaller units, and as families grow and as the environment grows, the idea is that they can grow into this project and/or future phases or future opportunities where we get more 2 bedrooms, we promote more family needs. I envision this to be someplace that people want to live, right? When you go and and I think one of the conversations that's come up is who's the audience? I'm not the audience for this, right? But, in 10 years, my kids are the audience, and I want to look at an environment where I would want to bring my kids and I would want to say, okay, this place looks safe. This place looks fun. This place looks something that people want to live. And I think that the idea behind putting something in such close proximity to what Cape Charles is and adds and offers from a commercial standpoint does start to breed that. One of the things that we also talked about from an off-site perspective is how do we make sure that this has connectivity, pedestrian and golf cart, to the town, because I think that matters. I think that's going to promote it. That's what's going to make people want to live here. This has to have an element of desire. Without desire, the project doesn't work. And that's what this needs to be. Not only do we promote people and solve for a problem of housing in the town, but up the shore and making Cape Charles be the destination that people want to be. And that's actually a part of the element of the EV charging. Right? I mean, there's 30 miles north and nothing to the south. And so as people are coming, we're the last stop off the bridge. And so if we can promote that, it's a positive promotion just for the town itself. And people are going to come in, and I'll tell you this, I mean, you come into the town, you like it. I mean, that's just why we're all here, right? And so I think the idea is that this becomes a bit of a magnet to what the future can hold at a small scale, at a thoughtful and quality deliverable.
So the EV stations are proposed for public use, not just resident use?
Oh, yeah. They'd be, ideally we'd have superchargers.
Yeah, if I could add to that point. So as Lance mentioned, that's a requirement of the PUD, has to be a second use. That's his commercial use. But speaking to EV chargers specifically, I have gotten a lot of questions and interest from residents about, is the town ever going to do this? Is the town going to put in chargers? Well, the town doesn't have the space to put in these chargers, and and providing energy for vehicles isn't a typical municipal function. So what I've been telling people is that what we're trying to do is attract commercial activities. So somebody who can do this for a business and satisfy what will only be a growing need. So Lance is actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. We definitely have a workforce housing need. But I think the future is coming where electric charging stations are going to be needed. And so both of these are valuable parts of the plan.
And you and I haven't spoke, but I did confirm with ANEC that we have plenty of power. That's why we're going south. We have to go to the 3-phase power on the south, and there's no restriction there.
I assume elevator in the building?
Correct. That's why. So it'll be 3 levels, elevator. We're staying under the 40-foot height that's already within, and that's why we did the interior. We just did that also to answer your coastal climate. I just kind of felt like get in the building and then get settled.
Because another audience that you'll have is aging in place. There'll be people, seniors that are looking for accessible, first floor
or elevator. Yeah. So everything will. I mean, listen. Everything's. Well, you know what? It'll be interesting. We'll have to talk about that on ADA in the individual units, because that's another thing that we'd have to do. So it might not be a bad idea to program a certain section of the units for that, and and that's makes sense as
We have a large
sustainable.
audience constantly looking for a long-term rental, in that category.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've been focusing on workforce, which is certainly
Mm-hmm.
the biggest, but that, I think, is a future attractive visitor to, and people who wanna reside here.
Those who were once workforce.
Yes. They have done their time.
They have done their time. They still deserve it.
Yeah. This is fabulous.
Yes.
A couple questions. On your civil plan, utilities, did that go past the 4 1-acre plots? I couldn't.
Yeah,
tell.
so I'm showing it cut off, but yes, it goes all the way down. It'll abut the property line.
Yeah.
And both the electric and sewer will come through there.
Okay.
Yeah, we were designed to go up Old Cape Charles Road. That's where our design goes.
Yeah, that's where we pick it up.
Gotcha. All right. I know further on, we have a report, and we'll pass judgment on passing this on to the planning commission, which I expect. But you have in there the AMI bands tied into your 30% criteria in our AMI max for utilities and rent. What's the purpose of that table?
Because sometimes people may not always equate the words and letters and information contained in the text to what that means to an actual dollar amount. So I tried to give you a little cheat sheet to understand where that standard is using today's information, that's all.
Okay, but how does that tie in LSU then? How does that tie into your workforce parameters? Because that's just a table. You can mark it to the highest level within the AMI range there and still satisfy the requirements for workforce housing. But from what you've told me in the past, you have gone after Virginia housing funding, which is workforce related. Can you explain then how that marries into the use of and distribution of AMI and
Yeah,
and
so
rents?
it does, and it's kind of, it's not linear. The answer's
Yeah,
not
right,
linear,
right.
right? So, so Virginia Housing would be the lender, the construction and permanent debt on the project, right? Nothing's getting built without debt, okay? And so Virginia Housing is the program that is defined as workforce housing, that is the debt. They have different programs. One of the programs is 150% of AMI. 150% of AMI is $90,000. I'm giving you rough numbers. And then 30% of that would be $27,000, which would be $2,200 on a studio, and that would not solve our problem. So it just doesn't work. The flip side of that is you could do 60% of the units at 60% of AMI, right? And then the rest would be with no limit. And so my answer is, without the integrity and the intent of what we're trying to accomplish, there is no number that we can put in the zoning that would make sense to have that would tie us to anything. So the answer needs to be, I like the idea of 100% workforce restricted housing in this building, right? And the only way to do 100% workforce income restricted housing, as it stands right now with Virginia Housing, is 150% of AMI. So it's 150% of AMI is our number. Our reality is that we're probably gonna try to be somewhere around 60 to 70% of what the natural cap would be. And that's just how it works.
So from my perspective, and I just want to make sure people understand it, we don't set rates of rents here, okay?
Correct.
We're approving a housing that you're calling workforce housing, and the only way I can be assured it's workforce housing related is because of the Virginia housing financing. You see what I'm saying? If you were to finance it some other way, that housing project could become anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying, I just want people to be aware that you're going after Virginia housing, which then ties you into criteria for workforce housing.
Correct, so-
Okay, that's all I wanted to make
But that's all,
sure.
that we can also address that in the PUD discussion that will come.
But I can't establish in the PUD set rates or AMI restrictions on a particular development. That's not in any ordinance space for us to dictate.
Not yet.
Okay, okay, fine.
No, but it's a helpful reassurance.
It is.
Right,
To
that it's
help.
not
That
gonna
is the
become
question
short-term
I've
housing,
gotten
right.
most frequently
That's correct.
is what's to keep these within that
Right.
parameters for workforce, so
Right,
very helpful, thanks, Paul.
That's all.
very
Yeah,
good.
no, it's I mean, we've been
It's a good
talking,
point.
you know, I don't know that there's an easy answer to it other than sincere intent.
Well, anybody else got any questions?
As we've been dealing with for the last couple of years, we know there's no easy answer for any of this stuff.
Yeah,
If there was, they would be built everywhere.
yeah. This will never be a luxury project, I'll tell you that. That's, we could put that in the zoning code if you want.
Well, Lance, thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
all
all
for
you've done
Thank
and
you.
thank you for.
Engaging us and your
Thank you for
support.
that phone call for seafood on the 27th.
It did start with
It
seafood.
did.
You could kill two
He was
birds
like,
with one
Who do
stone
I need
here.
to talk to? He said, you've been here a while. Who do I need to talk to? I said, well, I'm kind of the mayor. That would be me.
There you go.
Classic Cape Charles.
Yeah.
Starts with, we're gonna get some crabs.
Yep. That, in all sincereness, thank you very much.
Yeah,
sir.
thank you, and thank you
really
everybody for the
appreciate
support, yes. And listen, ask questions if you have them. I mean, we're thinking through everything. Nobody's an expert, so we're here to solve for something and work together to do it and make everybody, you know, supportive and happy in the process.
He's not leaving yet, because we have the second agenda item coming up is 8A, which is to talk about the PUD ordinance itself. So, which is-
I've got another recognition to make.
So do I get to sit down or?
It's my meeting, Katie. My meeting, Katie.
Announcing it to the public doesn't leave either yet.
Okay, item B, recognition of employees celebrating 10-year anniversary. And this is Scotty Neville, who's been with us for 10 years, running our water treatment plant. Done a very good job at it. He's been called out in the middle of the night. He's slept there on several occasions over this 10-year stretch. So thank you, Scott, is here. Huh?
So I was thinking about the little snowstorm.
Yeah. So anyway, John, if you don't mind giving this Scotty, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 5, public comments. In general, you can comment about anything you want. 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have anybody signed up?
Diane Davis?
Ms. Davis?
Mayor, members of the council, clerk, and manager. Good evening. I am Diane Davis, resident and a member of the Cape Charles Memorial Library Board. We would like to thank you for your support by becoming a member of the library. And special thanks to those of you who did join during the time we had our library week. We did have someone to come, 2 of you to come down to join at that time, and we do appreciate that. At least let us know that you are concerned about what we are doing. For those of you who have not joined, you still have an opportunity, and we will welcome you. We are proud to inform you that on December the 2nd, Festive Friday, we had a total of 120 visitors, and the children participated in arts and crafts with the help of the board members and the staff. On December the 9th, we had 180 visitors to come by. Also, I would like to thank those council persons who did stop by and the town manager. We are proud of the things that our staff are doing, as well as the patrons that visit us from time to time. At this time, I would like to wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a safe and blessed New Year.
Same to you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, and I would like to thank you for standing up here just about every meeting in the 4.5 years I've been here, and I appreciate your comments, and thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you.
Anyone else to say
Okay. Item 6, consent agenda, which consists of the approval of the agenda format, approval of the minutes, approval of the September the 30th, 2022, and October the 31st, 2022 financial reports. Can I get a motion to
So
approve?
move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That lustrous item 7, we never use. Item 8, new business. Item A, zoning text amendment, a request for Bay Crossing resolution of intent. All right. Ms. Nunez?
Yes. I'm sorry to say, I think I'm somewhat dominating tonight's agenda, and I apologize. As part of the presentation you just received from Mr. Marine, there's a huge component that is really the focus of tonight's conversation, which is a planned unit development district being created. So we have worked hard over the last few months with Mr. Marine to see what are the impediments in our current zoning ordinance, how they can be resolved. And they're not just all zoning related, some of them were utility related, and we've been working hard at finding solutions to that. So with that said, as part of our zoning consideration, we initially thought maybe the height would be an issue under our current zoning ordinance, the size of the units, density allowances, the percentage allocation of the land used as a whole versus free space or open space, as he has called it. We've gone through a litany of items, and so he has come forward now with his proposal, which is enclosed for your consideration, of what we're calling the Bay Crossing PUD. The significant changes have been highlighted. We really use the R3 zoning district as the basis, and what you're seeing is where it may deviate from that R3 district to then result in that PUD consideration. As part of that, just so you're aware, if it's not in the PUD, as he is drafted for this, then he's included language to say, okay, I'm going to then follow the rest of the town zoning ordinance as is. So however a subdivision may proceed forward would be followed under our current subdivision ordinance requirements. He would follow the stormwater components of our ordinance, the Chesapeake Bay Act components of our ordinance. All of that would still apply to his project. We have just called out where he is differentiating from a current zoning district, which really was the basis of the R3. Most importantly, one of the things that we noted is, again, in the template PUD document that we have as part of our zoning ordinance, we have two very specific requirements. One, that you need to have two identified uses, one being if it's residential, then you need to have commercial, or if it was commercial, you needed to have something else within another use category, which could have been residential, could have been industrial, could have been whatever that is, but you have to have two different uses. And so that's where we came forward with both the workforce housing and the EV charging. It doesn't mean he can't eventually, down the road, consider some additional commercial uses occurring on the property, but we're going to then talk about one of our conversations that resulted in a compromise solution here. And you have to have a minimum of 5 acres. This lot is much larger than that, and it's a total of just over 11 acres in total. He was not, at this point, willing to commit. He really understands there's some uncertainty to this whole project. We hope the workforce housing gets fully taken, and the need continues to show, and we can have future growth of additional housing units. But there's always a chance there may not. That may not happen, and so we didn't want to leave him stranded with all this land over there without some solution to how to potentially use it. But he was at this point prepared to provide you a conceptual plan for that, which is one of the requirements in our template PUD document. So we reached a compromise, which is we're committing to these two uses on these 5 acres of the housing and the EV stations. Any future development of the rest of the parcel will come back to both this board and the Planning Commission as conditional use permit applications. And that's what you're going to see is there's a whole litany of conditional uses that could happen on this property, but it would all have to come back for further review and evaluation under our standards for a conditional use process. So we felt that was a good compromise without having to have an initial concept before you this evening. And we may not have such a concept ever come before us, say, in the next year or the next 2 years. It could take time to see how this works out and pans as a project. And I think putting most of the uses under conditional use have solved some of the concerns I was having from a staff perspective, and what you as the elected officials may have to the public at large, saying, well, we may not know the whole plan right now, but we've put in safeguards to ensure it comes back for public review and consumption and comment before anything should get approved. So I think that covers the bulk of the changes. I'm happy to walk through them in more detail if you would like, and I know Lance can talk on some of this as well. So I open it up to you for any questions or comments that you have on the proposed PUD.
Hey, just a clarification, you were talking about the conditional use permits for the balance. He could also expand his PUD. Right?
Once we create the zoning district, this PUD zoning district, as long as somebody is coming forward saying they would adhere to all the elements of that zoning district, they could request a rezoning application, whether that be Mr. Marine or any other property owner could do that, as long as they met the conditions of the zone. Yes.
Okay.
Does it have to be contiguous?
That is not a requirement that we put in.
Be anywhere.
Yes.
Not,
Hold on, does it have to be 5 acres? Sorry.
Yes.
It would have to be, hold on, but it would have to be a minimum of 5 acres. Is it, how much other land in the town is a minimum of 5 acres?
Mr. Mayor, can you roll him out of order? That's one of the things that is missing in here is the 5 acre minimum for this district. So that's something we're going to have to put in.
Let's add that.
Yes, we will.
Good catch.
So,
I just had, not actually on the PUD, but I know we've got some zoning changes coming up. Is one of the issues that's going to be revisited the 1,000 square foot minimum? Because for a multi-unit, that does seem outdated.
I believe through our housing subcommittee work that's happening at the Planning Commission level, there may be some commentation occurring on that requirement.
Anybody have any questions on this end?
And I don't mean to not allow Lance a chance to speak. If you want to come up and add anything else.
I'm trying to remember when I'm ready.
And your recommendation?
So in your packets that were placed upon the dais this evening, there is a what do you call it, a intent notice? Resolution of intent, thank you, is there for your consideration. There's a whole bunch of whereases that support it under, I'm sorry, I did cheat a little bit. I actually used your soon-to-be-adopted comprehensive plan document as my reference point of support, knowing you're about to hopefully vote that in this evening. So I've given you all the support as to why we think this project is a good one to consider, and we would like to start moving it forward out for public hearing process to the Planning Commission and eventually back to you for public hearing process.
So, if I could add, Mr. Mayor, Katie, would you tell the council what your estimated timeline on this is?
Okay. I have gone through and done a very aggressive calendar, just because I think there is, I won't say urgency, there clearly is a need. We've been working really hard to move this forward. I think we've gotten this in really good shape for consideration. So, if you vote this tonight, I would be advertising, getting the ad in the paper, to go for public hearing to the Planning Commission at their January 3rd meeting. That then puts us in a position to having as much time as they need, because once we hold the public hearing and get public input, there's probably going to be some discussion and deliberation back and forth between Mr. Marine and the Planning Commission over the contents of the PUD ordinance. And that way I'm buying them the maximum amount of time, which they have 120 days max to do their review and provide a recommendation back to this body. We hope they can do that within a timely fashion, within the next 2 months to 3 months. So we're going to try and bring this back as quickly as we can to you. I am not proposing this go as a joint public hearing at this point in time, just because we recognize while there's been comments circulating over the last few months of this in the community, we want to make sure they feel that they've had ample opportunity to speak at both parties. So we want to do the Planning Commission public hearing as a standalone, let them go through, make their recommendation to you, and then bring it back and schedule a public hearing to the town council.
The other reason for that is, yes, Katie and I have been fully engaged in this, and the current draft reflects our concerns, but not another body like the Planning Commission. So we want at the Planning Commission to have a shot at this first. Yeah, so that they have an opportunity to make their comments.
Would there be an opportunity to do like a public, like a, town hall type later, not, once you guys hash out the majority of it?
If we feel something like that is needed based upon the input we receive during the public hearing process, that may be a possibility.
Yeah, the only reason I'm saying that is just because, there's been a lot of discussion outside with the potential people that wanna live there. So it might be something, so they understand exactly what's going on, is what I'm getting at. Because, the small town, there's.
Sure, and
A little bit of rumors.
To some extent, I don't wish us to do that type of meeting before it actually looks like the town will say yes to it. Because I don't want people getting their hopes up and then it gets turned down for some reason. Or the deal breaks apart because financing, any number of reasons could still
Got it.
spear this
I'm
to the
just saying,
ground.
maybe when it's further along into
So-
it. that it's looking
Absolutely,
very
and I
positive.
think Mr. Marine is hearing that concern, and we'll add that to his calendar of how we can do that when we feel we're at the point that we can really start to engage the other stakeholders, the potential users of this property, to make them aware of that timeline of construction, and when we would be recruiting, when Mr. Marine would be recruiting for tenants, et cetera, so.
So the application is really gonna come from general builders until such time as the land is sold?
That's correct, and I did provide, I mentioned that in the staff report, I did not have that at the time this went out to you. I received that today, because again, we have to deal with the actual property owner in hand, and General Builders LLC is still the property holder. There is a contract for purchase on it from Mr. Marine and his corporation, but we had to ensure that General Builders LLC knew this. So yes. And I've talked with him, and he is fully in support of this. And I think he did not come, but he was thinking he was coming, but he may be watching us, so.
All right. Any more questions? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move ahead with the resolution of intent to hold a public hearing and push this into planning commission space.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, we got a second. Resolution of intent 2022-1215A, zoning ordinance text amendment and map amendment. Whereas in accordance with the Code of Virginia 15.2-2286A, the Cape Charles zoning ordinance 2.7.1 includes regulations pertaining to the initiation of amendments, supplements, change in regulations, district boundaries, and clarifications of property contained in the zoning ordinance. And whereas the town, within its comprehensive plan, housing chapter, page 35, has stated as its primary intent is to pursue land use, zoning, and housing policies to meet and maintain the housing needs of all Cape Charles residents and support a strong local workforce while preserving local character. And whereas the town's comprehensive plan has identified the lack of affordable housing and a key factor contributing to the worker shortage both in the town as well as Northampton County, page 44. And whereas the town has adopted as one of its goals and objectives in the comprehensive plan to encourage development and affordable workforce housing, page 45. And whereas the town is in receipt of the zoning text amendment to create a new zoning district called Bay Crossing Plan Unit Development, or Bay Crossing PUD, which includes an intent statement to create a zoning district to provide for low to moderate density residential development designed to serve the workforce and other housing needs of the town and the county. And whereas the town is in receipt of zoning map amendment to rezone tax map 90-19A from residential 3 to a newly proposed Bay Crossing PUD district. Now be it resolved that the purposes of the public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice, the Cape Charles Town Council hereby adopts a resolution, text amendment, and a zoning map amendment, and to the Planning Commission, and to schedule a public hearing to consider the adding of the new zoning district called Bay Crossing Plan Unit Development District, and to consider rezoning tax map 19A from residential A3 to this new zoning district. Bay Crossing Plat Unit Development District, if so created, and any other sections of the zoning ordinance deemed to be appropriate to achieve the purposes described herein. Any discussion? I need a roll call on that, Libby?
Yep.
Roll call?
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
I'll let it be known it passed unanimously. Thank John, Katie, Lance, everybody that's worked on this. Thank you all very much. I know it's been a lot of work on all of you, so thank you.
Now you can leave.
The work really now begins. The work now begins.
Yeah.
Okay, where we at? Item B. Another biggie, adoption of the comprehensive plan.
Hard to believe we could top that one, that last one, Mr. Mayor, but
It's a big night.
this is a big night, yes.
This is a big night.
Clearly, this is something that has been years in the making, and been a lot of work by the council, by staff, by the planning commission, by our consultant. We've been through many iterations of this, many public meetings with this, and I think we are prepared now with a final product that we are very, from a staff perspective, we're very proud of, and wholeheartedly recommend approval.
So we got a recommendation?
I'll make a motion, and I want to make a following a motion on the motion.
Does that second that emotion?
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2022-1215B in adopting a comprehensive plan
Okay.
with the changes noted in the staff report, the 4 bullets.
Second.
By the planning commission.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. I move for adoption of resolution 2022-1215B, adoption of the Town of Cape Charles Comprehensive Plan update as noticed, and forego the reading of the resolution. Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
Just because we have public here that is representing that, one of the items that the planning commission approved, I didn't know if we could just quickly go through the points that were adopted by the planning commission, because people may not have stayed for that part of the meeting. And we have residents here that need to hear, especially the third item on
Good point.
page 118. I don't know how you want to do that.
Well, at page 118, I wanted to further amend.
Yeah.
You know, what I had stated at the planning commission, I must have mumbled, so I want to make it clear here.
Right, I didn't think
you mumbled?
Sometimes I have been known to mumble.
So, before you make a formal motion on that, could you explain what it is you want? Because I think Katie may be able to address it.
All right, that may
Yep.
be. Okay, so the intent is the mixed use coming from Mason to Randolph, okay? In page 118, we made the recommendation that the corner lots facing Randolph are to remain residential, okay? But what I had attempted to also include was the existing residences that are currently built should remain R1 and not be proposed as future mixed use.
on the side
So
streets.
take an example, coming out of the town offices, you've got Dr. Tea House is commercial, okay? Then you've got the green duplex, and then you got the corner lot on Randolph, which is a resident. So those 2 residential units, to me, should stay R1 and not be proposed as future mixed-use designation.
So in other words, what's residential state?
Yeah,
So
so
can-
They're grandfathered in.
Stays
If it's
residential,
residential.
right.
So can Katie address that for a minute?
Sure.
I think your concern has actually been addressed by the vote that was done by the planning
Good.
commission, and it's reflected. I know you can't see it because I couldn't get it to print on the large version today, but we have proofed this map so that those corner lots on residential and almost the whole stretch of residential is still in the future land use map recommended as future residential, future historic district residential. You're using a terminology of residential 1. that's a zoning designation,
you're
not a
right.
future
You're-
land
you're
use
right. You're right.
designation.
You're
And
right.
that's all we're dealing with is the future land use map conversation. So I just wanted to make that clear to you.
Okay, so let me just make sure we're clear here. We show on this map, has this been updated?
Yes.
Such that the residences, the current residences are tagged residential? in
The
our
zoning
future?
has never changed on those maps, they are still R1. So in the future land use map, that whole stretch, except where it's already gone residential by, commercial one by this board's vote or prior board's vote, those are shown as a slightly, what's the color over there, Ken? Pink?
Let's call it salmon.
Salmon? Salmon. And specifically, I can tell you which lots those are that are not quite corner, but that front on Randolph. It is the Bo Yang property on the corner of, I think it's Strawberry. And the middle lot that we just voted this summer for the hotel. And I think that's it.
All right, so then just, let's come back just to the example I had across from town staff. The duplex and the yellow house on the corner, what is that reflected in the future land use map?
It's historic residential, historic district residential.
Okay, so this map has been superseded.
Yes,
Okay, well, I needed to know that.
yes.
All right.
We've been working.
I'm telling you, you cannot look at
I
that
know.
in a shrunk 8x11.
I
sheet of
understand. I've been working furiously with our consultant since the planning commission meeting ended to make all the changes.
paper. All right, so to come back, then I don't need a motion. It's really an explanation that anything fronting Randolph is going to remain residential.
And that addresses my issue for our guests that are here tonight.
And,
so they
and
have
this
it.
will be addressed, Katie's also been, because she hasn't been doing anything else, right? She's also lined up a GIS platform for us. So hopefully, this will be a layer.
This is.
So even though you can't see it on a little 8x10 page, we'll be able to go online and
Come January, this will be part of our website, and you can go look at the zoning layers and the future land use map layers at your leisure.
That's awesome.
And we know you have lots of that, Mr. Grossman.
Now you gotta buy software.
We don't need an amendment.
No,
We
you
don't
can just
need,
look
any- anybody, any more discussion? We don't need amendment? All right, roll call vote.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman.
Palmer, yes.
Let it be known it was unanimous. Look at here. Item C.
same as last time. Again, a very long process that has involved all the groups involved, including in this one, the Historic District Review Board, staff, consultant, different consultant on this one. But through many iterations, I think we finally found the sweet spot, and everyone's been happy with it. So we recommend approval.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution 2022-12-15C.
Second.
I move for adoption of resolution 2022-1215C, adoption of the Town of Cape Charles Historic District Design Guidelines as noticed, and forego the reading of the resolution. Any discussion?
I just want a comment from Katie. Our map for the historic district in here, we'll talk about later under zoning amendments, but you'll update the map in the historic district there to bring in the boundary to Bay Avenue, the western boundary. That's all right.
Any more discussion? All right, Mr. Fulmer, we'll start with you this time. Roll call.
Palmer, yes.
Grossman, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Bennett, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Buckles, yes.
Let it be known, that's unanimous. All right. Okay. All right, so item D's got a whole bunch underneath of it. So item D, zoning ordinance amendments. One, reaffirmation of historic district overlay map and zoning text amendment to 8.3, staff report for items 8D2 through 8D10. I don't know what I just read.
I'll let Katie give you.
Just read 'em all.
I'll let Katie have this one.
You want me to read them all?
Right, because we've done the public hearing, so these are all now before you for consideration. I hope, if I should need to explain any of them further, I'm happy to stand here and do so. But otherwise, if you want to run, run.
Can I get a motion for ordinance 20221215A?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. I move for adoption of ordinance 20221215A, reaffirming the historic district overlay map and amending Cape Charles zoning ordinance sections 8.3, inventory of landmarks and contributing properties established, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Mr. Buckholz.
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Roseman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Let it be known it's unanimous. All right. Item 2, zoning text amendment 3.2, district regulations, single-family residential district R1. I don't think there's no need for you to go through it, so can I get a motion for ordinance 2022-1215B?
So moved.
Second?
I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-1215B, amending the Cape Charles zoning ordinance sections 3.2, district regulations, single-family residential district R1, and 3.6, district regulations, commercial district C1, as noticed and forego the reading. Roll call vote. Any discussion?
Yes. I would just ask Katie to repeat the clarification she made during the public hearing about this not being an absolute ban on vinyl siding, that it's covered under the alternative materials.
Sure. So as you remember, there is a conflict right now in our zoning ordinance where it does allow vinyl, and under the guidelines, it said no vinyl. In this process, we would remove this from the zoning ordinance. We have outlined, so we're not banning any particular material, but in the guidelines, we have developed a whole chapter on alternative material consideration. So there can be the chance for an applicant to seek for an alternative material and make their case and make a petition, and it outlines the arguments they would need to make, the process they would need to go through for consideration by the Historic District Review Board. So that's, I'm not saying it's new, but we're getting more formal in that process, and we're creating a standard, both for the Historic Board to follow and for applicants to know what's the process to go through to seek such an alternative material usage.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
know it addressed vinyl, and that's been always a contention between the two documents. The balance of materials in there, someday we're gonna come back to perhaps eliminate those as well, because there's a good 10 items, right?
I don't think in the zoning ordinance there is, but that's part of, and if there is, that's part of some of the review that's being done
Okay.
by our consultant, Summit Engineering, as they review the zoning ordinance.
Any more discussion? Mr. Fulmer?
Fulmer, yes.
Roseman, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Bennett, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Buckles, yes.
Let it be known, it passed unanimous. Can I get a motion for ordinance 2022-1215C?
So moved.
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-1215C, amending the Cape Charles zoning ordinance sections 8.3, inventory of landmarks and contributing properties established, as noticed, and forego the reading. Any discussion? Mr. Buckholz?
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Roseman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Can I get a motion for adoption of ordinance 2022-1215D?
So moved.
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-1215D, amending the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 8.4, application of the district, relation to other zoning districts, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion? Mr. Fulmer?
Fulmer, yes.
Roseman, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Bennett, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Buckles, yes.
Can I get a motion for adoption of ordinance 2022-1215E?
So moved.
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-1215E, amending Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 8.8, Historic District Review Board, terms as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion?
Yes, could staff explain, so in practical terms, what this changes?
Currently, there was, the only way to remove a member was for cause. This makes the appointment at will by the council.
And this will apply eventually to all.
As we go through them all, yeah, we'll correct them all as we go. The only one we can't change is the planning commission, obviously, that's driven by state code.
Thank you.
And Board of Zoning Appeals.
Oh, yeah, and BZA, yes.
Sorry.
Any more discussion? Mr. Buckholz?
No, yes or no?
Oh, Buckholz, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Who's with us? Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Let it be known as passed unanimously. Can I get a motion for ordinance 2022115F?
So moved. Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2021215F, amending the Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 8.14E, Historic District Review Board powers and duties. And as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Palmer?
Fulmer, yes.
Grossman, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Bennett, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Let it be known it's unanimous. Can I get a motion for adoption of ordinance 2022115G?
So moved.
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2022115G, amending Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 8.20, design guidelines, recommendations for review, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion? Mr. Buckholz?
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Can I get a motion for adoption of ordinance 20221215H?
So moved.
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 20221215H, amending Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 8.2A, or 20A, design guidelines, recommendations for review, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion? Mr. Fulmer?
Fulmer, yes.
Grossman, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Bennett, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Can I get a motion for ordinance 20221215I?
So moved.
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 20221215I, amending Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 8.25A, receipt of application, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion? Mr. Buckholz?
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Goodness.
Can I get a motion for 20221215J?
Second.
I move for adoption of ordinance 20221215J, amending Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 8.29, expirations of certificates of appropriateness, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Any discussion?
Question, so in the first line, is that limitation 12 months? That's supposed to remain 12?
No.
Because it's not struck through.
It's meant to be 6 months.
Okay.
And that's what was advertised, is striking it through.
Just check. Wait. What you showed me, I think matches. But on that very first line where it says 12 months, it's not struck through?
Sorry, then we missed that one. Everywhere else, it's 6 months. It's 6 months consistently.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to amend to include 6 months? So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any more discussion?
Okay, point out that I caught something I called missed.
Extra stars for you
Yeah.
signing through.
Even through planning
Yeah.
commission.
Mr. Fulmer?
Statue in my honor, please.
Mr. Fulmer?
Error this year.
We still got to do a roll call vote. Mr. Fulmer?
Oh, you still have to
Fulmer,
vote-
yes.
you're voting on the amendment first,
O'Brien,
right?
yes.
Huh? We did.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't do a roll call vote on the amendment.
But we just said it, yeah.
We did. Now it's your turn.
This is the amendment?
No,
We've already voted on the
Yeah, we
amendment.
voted on the amendment.
Sorry.
So those three have voted.
Okay,
Then, yes.
Oh, wait, yes.
let it be known, it was unanimous. All right. All right, now let's get this meeting started. Item E, fiscal year 2023 budget amendment. Mr. Hosey.
So there should be no surprises here. This is what we talked about at the work session, what's been advertised to the public. This accomplishes all the things we discussed at the work session, and we recommend approval.
All right, got a rec-
Let it get on the floor first.
You told me right when you were finished, that was my.
It has to be on the floor
I've
first.
got a recommendation. I've got a recommendation from staff. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion?
Now.
Ms. Tabby?
Get that away, right?
Yep.
I have exciting news, and I'm so glad that Mr. Coker is here this evening. Cape Charles Main Street and the town of Cape Charles put together a request from the Northampton County Infrastructure Grant for the visitor center and bathroom, as we had just discussed earlier. And I am proud to say that we got $100,000 toward that project as planned, so we need to amend the budget. And I have wording, if I'm supposed to read that now.
Yes,
Yep,
yes,
would
now would be the time.
Would you like to make that amendment?
I would like to make that.
You make that amendment.
I move that we reduce the appropriation by $100,000 of ARPA revenue for the construction of the visitor center and restrooms in the requested amendment, and replace it with $100,000 of grant revenue to be received by Northampton County's infrastructure grant fund.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye. Congratulations.
So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coker. Any more discussion on the, okay, hearing no more discussion, all in favor of the budget amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item F, Board of Zoning Appeals member reappointment.
So this is going to take hours, Mr. Mayor. No, obviously, staff recommends a reappointment.
You got a recommendation?
Yeah, I'll make a recommendation that we reappoint Mr. Pete Bowen to the BZA.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Any discussion? Yeah, I figured it would be. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Hosey, you got anything
do.
else to add to this?
A couple of things, yes. Want to let you know that we are about ready to launch the 2022 community survey. It'll go live next week. The utility bills will be going out next week, and it'll go live on SurveyMonkey, and we'll get out a special gazette and put it on Facebook. So that's all going to go live next week. Also, when we approved the comprehensive asset purchase agreement for the sale of the utilities, a number, almost all of the schedules associated with that agreement were not complete yet, and you asked to see them when they were. They are substantially complete at this point. I forwarded them all to your emails earlier today. There's quite a lot there, but I just want to let you know that's there. Libby's been working hard to get that all put on the website as well for the public to review. And the last big thing I'd like to do is give a big shout out to my finance department for the incredible work that they've been doing. The good news is the tax bills finally got done today. They will go out in the mail tomorrow. It's just been a ridiculous amount of additional work that my staff has had to do. I hope the county can work on addressing that in the future, because this has just been a nightmare for us. So again, I just have to really give a big shout out to the finance department for all your work. It's not just it's this amendment, it's putting all the schedules together for the asset purchase agreement. It's been a lot. So thank you, Debbie, and your whole staff for that. So the deadline is still the 3rd, so we wanted to give 3 weeks. It's gonna be a little less than 3 weeks now, but we did the best we could.
I changed it to the 5th because I promised everybody.
You snuck that.
Debbie always keeps her
You snuck
promises.
that one by me, okay. But I do want to reiterate again, we said this in the statements, we said it in the notices, for the public. Anybody who wants to claim this in your tax return for 2022, you must pay before December 31st. Okay, payments made after that will not be deductible. So that's important for the public to understand.
Postmarked.
I don't know what the detail is. Postmark? Postmark, okay, yes. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Ms. O'Brien, I'm gonna start with you tonight.
I wasn't prepared to start tonight. No, I just want, we've really gone through a lot on the zoning, and I spent a lot of work for Katie, and I think it's going to really help to make things a little bit easier for the citizens and for the, everybody involved. So I'm happy to see that that's happened. I'm glad the comp plan's done. I think this is probably my last meeting, but I'll be sitting over there, which would be fun. I look forward to seeing you guys. That's it. You'll join me.
Mr. Grossman?
Yeah, I got a bunch of things here too. One with Pete Bowen, I've seen him on the BZA, so I really appreciate his continuation there on that particular committee. Certainly for you two guys, Smitty and Ellen, I know this is the end of the year, and we really appreciate what you brought to the table, so thank you very much. Libby, 90 pages of meeting minutes, I have to thank you for. Not that I read every sentence, but
Slipping.
yeah, I just
Probably missed a
gave up
punctuation
there.
error.
And lastly, as stated before, Katie and Tracy, the comp plan and the historic district guidelines. Let me tell you, we've worked on both the ordinance, Article 8. I'll tell you, I've been working on it for 4.5 years. So this has really come a long ways, and I'm glad it's finally over with. And
It took women to do it.
there you go. Thank you for that. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Palmer?
I don't really have anything except I want to say a huge shout out of thanks to Main Street and the organizers of our Festive Fridays. I've been overwhelmed with positive feedback about just how it continues to get better every year. I can say from my own perspective, it's reflected in the increased business, but I think people just really enjoyed how, I mean, the hard work that's gone into getting increased sponsorship and the street closure and the lights. I think after the last couple of years, people really needed it, and you all delivered, so thank you.
Mr. Bennett?
Thank you. I have a couple of things. First, kind of piggybacking on other folks, I've been on council for quite a while now, and I've never had a 544-page council packet. So the work behind producing that packet, with all the people and all the hours spent, is incredible. So I just want to thank everybody that's contributed to that, because it's amazing. The other thing is, as the vice mayor, and I'm going to read part of this and speak to part of it, so I'll read part of it so that I don't go over time or just get off track, but for Ellen and Smitty, since this is your last meeting, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for what you've contributed to this council and therefore to this town. Ellen, even though you've only been on council for a relatively short time, you've made a definite and positive impact, and I've enjoyed serving with you. Your comments were always well thought out and equally well articulated. I hope to see your name on a future Cape Charles ballot. And Smitty, you've done an amazing job with a host of unusual and difficult situations during your years in office. The challenges you've faced and the solutions to those challenges that you've brought have always had the best interest of this town at the forefront of your decision-making. I personally think you've been one of the best mayors we've had, and I appreciate all you've done while in the position. You leave big shoes to fill, and as you move on to other challenges, I certainly wish you the best. You'll be missed in this room for sure. All the best to both of you. And with that, there are gifts for each of you, and I don't want to give the wrong one to the wrong person, but I'm told there's initials
Inside the bag.
inside the
Little white
bag.
little label.
This would be for Ellen,
Thank you.
and this would be for Smitty.
for me, huh?
Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh,
Thank you all. Thank you all so much.
beautiful.
That is, that's
Thank you.
And let me have that gavel, please. Since you've worn this out in 4.5 years, put this over here. We have another gift for you.
Oh,
Oh. Oh, wow. Wow. Look, I'm supposed to speak after all of this. I'm gonna wind up crying.
I was just thinking
I
that.
hope so.
Wow, one of your own.
Could be a one-time use.
You don't have to knock that knuckle anymore, you got
I don't, but I'll tell you what, we will end this meeting with this gavel. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
So the two of you have just done an incredible job. Thanks
Here,
so
here.
much for
Here,
all your
here.
service.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
You did all right as a town manager, too.
We don't want to see any dog teeth marks in it.
Don't worry.
Put it high, man.
That'll stay in there.
I wish you would've gone last. That's really silly right now.
Tammy?
But it's important. Andrew talked about Festa Fridays, and it really takes, and what I've seen this year more than ever is a true team approach. The town, in particular, the chief of police and his team and public works, but everyone had, in the beginning, kind of a curious mind about how it would all really work itself out. And I think everybody really worked together to make that happen. And the results are just incredible. I want to just go on the record to mention Tara Asworth and Julie Kraus and Hillary Mason, because those are the true coordinators of this, and our volunteers don't often get the recognition they should have. And they really, they just have a positive energy about them, and they were realistic in what they could conquer, but they didn't let any negativity pull them down. And they worked with each of these areas to make this happen. And I can just to go by and see so many people in shops and on the street and in every restaurant every week after week is just incredible. So I really want to offer those thanks. And I do want a special thanks to Julie. Julie, does the front end of these events you see in the grand illumination and all of that, but you guys don't know what she helps with Festa Fridays and the Cookie Trail and the Lighted Golf Cart Parade. And she's got several more before the end of the year. This woman's going to be exhausted by January 1st. So thank you, Julie, for that. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to piggyback on what everybody's said about both of you. It's been a great honor to serve with both of you. Smitty, from the town manager and mayor roles, you did a fantastic job stepping into a good old quagmire at the beginning. So I'm very glad I got to serve with you, both of you guys. Big shout out to the guys at Main Street. But the town, I mean, talk about a postcard picture of holiday time. It's a fantastic job. And for all you guys, for the town, you guys have really killed this low-lying fruit stuff, I'm telling you. The amount of effort, and you guys, we gotta keep this in mind going forward, of priorities and the amount of volume and work that's been put into all this stuff, from zoning to the comprehensive plan, to the new potential of workforce housing, to the tax dilemma. John, you and the county for coming up with monies for the town. There's a lot going on, so, and we're still got a lot to go. Even though some of this stuff's finally coming off the table, we've got more stuff, another 9 to get to before the new stuff starts rolling. So, shout out to the staff, unbelievable. And I'm glad that you guys are here. I hope you guys stick around, and hopefully we don't put too much pressure on you guys. Anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, I guess that leaves me. Well, as most of you, may or may not know, I haven't written a speech in 4.5 years, and I really tried. And I got a line in. It took me 2 weeks to get that line in, and I tore it up, and I said, why change now? And then Councilwoman said the same thing tonight. So here I am winging it for one last time. But I want to say, first of all, really, truly humbled that the citizens and the voters of Cape Charles trusted me with this time and elected me and put me in this chair in the first place. So thank you. It's been an experience of a lifetime. It really has. And as the water starts coming down my eyes, I have really sit up here and I've seen the Tyne as a different perspective. I've worked for the Tyne for 13 or 14 years. And being up on this side, it's a whole different animal. I've had the pleasure of working with the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and I mean that wholeheartedly, from staff and council. And I could go down the list with Chris, starting with Chris Bannon. He's been here since the beginning of time, I started to say. And then, of course, we had Councilwoman Burge come in, and I mean, she's a judge, so that goes to tell you how smart she is. And then, of course, U6 here, and I've got some awards to hand out tonight. I don't really have any awards, but Andy gets the best dressed award. Maybe that's the only one. I was trying to think of some sort of graphic award for Paul. And then, of course, Andrew tapped in his ward. He's very punctual and stuff, and so he actually tapped into that ward tonight. So, and Tammy's a bull at a china shop, and she's got something on her mind. So it's not lying. And Steve, I remember once I got elected mayor and before I ever took the first step, me and Beth was sitting down talking, and she's like, vice mayor. And I said, well, Chris has always been. I said, but one of the things I ran on is that we're one Tyne. We are Cape Charles. It don't matter if you live in the Bay Creek District. It don't matter if you live in the Historic District, the Marina District. It really don't matter if you move into the new district that we just created tonight. We're one Tyne, and it's one for all. And I looked at Beth and I said, I think I want Steve. And me and Steve would work together. He was on the Harbor Area Review Board. I was a harbor master, so we'd had conversation before. But the one thing I knew about Steve was that he was very well read, very smart, and I respected everything that come out of his mouth. And so I really appreciate you being alongside of me for all this time. So, and I know, and he knows. I picked up the phone many a time and said, "Hey, we got this going on. What's your opinion on that?" So I might be sitting in this chair, but I've had a lot of good people around me over the years to advise, and I know Paul. My God, I asked Paul to kind of be the time planner until we actually got a time planner. So I'm very proud of where we've come from the time we started to where we're at. And I want to say, us 6, 7 of us can sit up here and we can make motions and we can project and we can try to direct staff to get us stuff. But if we don't have the staff, the proper staff in the proper places, it won't happen. It won't happen the way you want it. And that's a contribute to, I'm gonna start with our appointed officers, Libby, Jim, Deb, John. If I was gonna say there was a great accomplishment that I had up here, the best accomplishment I've had is hiring you. And I mean that wholeheartedly. When I spoke to Governor Walker on the phone, he said, you got people that talk about doing stuff, and you got people that do stuff. He said, John Hose is a doer. You're a doer. And I hope you don't stop doing for this time in the future. Going to leave everybody right now, but I've got a couple things for our new members that's going to be taking this chair. So. Pardon? Thank you both for the willingness to serve. Thank you for what you've done on the planning commission and time help. And it's going to be yours going forward. So thank you very much. Thank you both. Thank you. I've got one last thing to add before I give the announcements. If you see W.S. Smitty Dawes on any ballot, vote for him. Just gonna say it. All right, announcements. December the 23rd through the December 23rd and the 26th. Tyne offices closed for Christmas holidays. December the 31st, drop into the crab pot. January the 2nd, Tyne offices closed for New Year's Day holiday. January the 15th, Tyne offices closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. You have any meeting scheduled for January other than a regular meeting?
Just a regular meeting right now.
Okay. January the 19th, Tyne Council regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one last thing. We're going to be eating a ribeye, drinking wine, watching you on Facebook January 15th.
Watch for the comments.